this is the third time we saw the movie, and I mean, honestly, what you guys are doing, it's just opened a dialogue and made it easier for, I mean, the first time we stood up, it was so hard, you know, because it's one of those things we just, you know, you kind of keep in the house, you know, oh, he's shy, or because you don't want him made fun of, and you don't want, but now, you know, we feel like we're on a team, and I'm Melissa.
Paul.
I'm Paul, and is this a story about your child?
Yeah, our oldest son.
How old is he now?
He is going to be 6 in April.
Okay, still little.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened to him.
I mean, to start off, I had bad vaccine reactions when I was a child. When I was 6, I got the MMR, the DTaP, and the polio because of a school. Yeah, all at once. And I just remembered always waking up, there was no color. I ran to the bathroom because I felt so sick. I just felt like I couldn't walk, I couldn't move. And my parents came and got me, and they had to take me to the ER, and I passed out at the ER. And it was just really bad. So it always stuck with me that, you know, vaccines. And my dad had some vaccine problems. And then the next time I had to get vaccinated, I was 14. Again, we moved in the school, lost my records, so they made me get the DTaP and the polio drops again. And I'd gotten sick again. And it was just, you know, I just was leery of them. So when we got pregnant, you know, I thought I had been really dutiful and studied and read everything, and I didn't want to vaccinate. I knew I didn't want to vaccinate with everything, and I didn't want to follow the schedule. So if the CDC schedule. So I really thought I had done research and done well, but even going really low and slow. His first vaccine at 4 months, we started late. It was the Hib, and I remember we brought him home, and within a matter of hours, he was just so lifeless. He just from one vaccine,
the
Hib, and I had read in Dr. Sears' book said it was the safest of all the vaccines, so I was like, that's the one we're going to start with. And he was just completely lifeless. His fever got up to about 103. It never went above 103. We called the doctor's office, and they were like, it's normal, don't worry, you know, it'll probably take a couple of days, he might be like this. And I was like, you know, a couple of days, it was horrible. But, you know, he wasn't screaming or anything. He just literally was lifeless. He just, I can still see him in my mom's arms when I'm talking to the pediatrician's office. And they said, just give him some Tylenol, he'll be fine, which now I really kick myself for giving him the Tylenol, but I did what they said. And within a couple of days, he came out of it, and, you know, we thought we were okay. So I had this schedule that I had gotten scolded by the pediatrician's office for, but it was a separation of 30 days. I wouldn't do more than one vaccine every 30 days, and I'd already told them I wouldn't do any of the ones with the Marisol in them and that, and they assured me there was no vaccines with the Marisol in them anymore and everything, but you know, I didn't care.
We provided them with a written schedule.
Yeah, we provided, which they lost.
What?
I made a schedule, what I was comfortable with,
right.
So I wanted to be up front with them, you know, with what we were willing to do. And they, like I said, they kind of scolded us on this, and they said, well, we'll try and work with you. That was all they said. Yeah, we'll try and work with you. And I was like, okay, well. Anyway, so a month later, I tried to be like on time every 30 days. He'd go on the next one with the DTaP, and he didn't react well to it, but it wasn't as bad as with the Hib. The Hib was just really, really bad. He'd always be lethargic a little bit for a day or so, but he'd come out of it, and everything seemed okay, and he was meeting all his marks. And we ended up a couple times having to miss like a month or two because he would get a cold or something, so I wouldn't go near the vaccine, so no matter what the schedule said. And I have notes still this day where I delayed it. And I noticed it, and we only did the Hib, the DTaP, and the polio. And matter of fact, the polio became a big issue because they didn't, they wanted to give him the one that has multiple vaccines in it at once, not just the polio, and I refused it, and they were like yelling at us and really angry. And the one lady at the doctor's office worked with us and managed.
They were yelling at you. What kind of things were they saying?
They were like, this is ridiculous. We give this to parents all the time. I don't know why you're being so obstinate. You know, don't you trust us? This is what we do. I know you've been looking on the internet. You can't believe what you see on the internet. You know, just the nurses to the doctor to, you know, the whole litany. You know.
As if you're the dumbest person in the room.
Yeah, just trying to make us feel really stupid, basically. And so anyway, we proceeded on usually, and there was a period there where we had like a couple months missed, and that was the only time we heard our boys say mama and dada. It was about 7 or 8 months. In hindsight, you know, and then it stopped, and I couldn't figure out why he stopped talking. And I looked back in hindsight, that was the 2.5 month window where we didn't vaccinate him at all. And then we started the polio. And after the polio, he just got more sensitive to everything. Eating became a nightmare. And this was a kid who would eat anything. Right after his first birthday, we went to a restaurant. He tried duck, chicken. I mean, he was having a little buffet, you know, and he was enjoying it, never any problem. And then 2 days later, he went and got the polio vaccine. And after that, he would look at certain foods and he would literally look like he was going to throw up. I mean, and this went on for years. I mean, literally years. And it was terrible. If he saw anything white or like mashed potato, anything, he would just look like he was going to throw up. It was horrible. And we had to keep him on the little organic packets forever. And he never ate anything but organic food, with rare exception. I mean, even when we were on the road, we made, like, if we were on a trip, we'd make allowances to make sure he got organic food. And we made sure we completed the rounds of polio, which I really regret now, because he got more sensitive even after the polio round. And we stopped at polio, and I'd already told him I wasn't going to give him the MMR until he was at least 3. And they went nuts at his 2-year appointment. And that's when they said, you're trying to kill your baby, you're not protecting him. You know, I mean, I was so upset. I mean, I got in the car and I was crying because I was hurt, I was angry. It was just, I'll never forget that. I was like, I cannot believe that woman just said I was trying to kill my baby.
And she was a pediatrician, about 70 years old.
Oh, yeah.
She's been in the field a while.
Yeah.
80% of her salary comes from vaccinating your baby.
Yeah, which we now know that. Yeah. And, you know, we were like, that's it. We're not going back. Now, I had another son during this window, and I didn't want to take him to this pediatric group, but I kind of didn't have a choice because they were the pediatric group that attended at the hospital and everything. So I just went ahead and was like, okay, we'll do there's the initial 2-day after you release from the hospital checkup. And so I did it, and there we told him, because our son ended up in the NICU, and they kept trying to give him the Hep B in the NICU, and we were like, no. We had told him before the delivery we were not going to let him have the Hep B.
They told him 3 times in the hospital.
3 times
don't do it.
in the
Don't do
NICU
it.
specifically. They kept, and then I can remember the neonatologist kind of going, "What is your problem with giving it to him?" Like demeaning us and talking down to, and we were just like, we'll do it at the pediatric office. We just don't want to do it here in the hospital. We just want to get him home. And they were like, fine, since you say they were like hounding us until we said we'd do it at the pediatrician, which we didn't plan to, but he was in that NICU and we just didn't want something to happen. So anyway, we got to the doctor's office, and there we told him, no, we're not doing the Hep B. And at that point, he turned around, this pediatrician, and he said, you can't stay in the practice. If you don't follow the CDC schedule exactly, you're not welcome in the practice. And so we never went back.
And that's when you wished it said that to you right at the very beginning when you
I
walked in
told
the
him
door.
that. Exactly. So we never heard Mama or Dada again until our son was almost 5 years old.
Yep.
Last December.
Well, he's speaking now, though. That's
He
wonderful
is.
news.
He is. It's fantastic. So
And did you do the diet, the gluten casein-free diet?
we've done diet. I
And
don't know
lots
if we're
of
allowed
other
to say
things.
the things we've done, but
Yeah.
we've done several things. Thank God we found this amazing groups on Facebook
People.
and that have other parents who have just been wonderful to us and
And
guided
so,
us.
just on that note, all the people that want to know how people have done so well with their children, or managed to get their child to speak, and some of our children don't do things that others do, and we don't seem to understand it, go to the Autism File magazine, because if you want to write up your story, that's where everyone's writing their stories now, and everyone can just take a bit. We had to with our son. We couldn't understand why another child spoke before our child, or some
Exactly.
children speak, some people don't. Every parent does the best they can with what they can, and that's the main thing.
So for us, the big thing is we thought going low and slow and selective and all this, but apparently it's just some kids that genetically, and I, now having the reaction, matter of fact, I had to go get a tetanus shot in, 2005, and the doctor, I told him my history, and I was scared I'd hit something rusty, so I had like total tetanus phobia, and he was like, ooh, this is the new formula, this is supposed to be the most gentle ever, so go ahead and take it. He goes, but if you don't react well to this, don't ever take another one. He goes, because you're at risk for then going into the anaphylactic. I was like, he tells me this after the shot, So I go home, and literally for over a week I was on the sofa with severe headaches, high fever. I couldn't move. I had no energy. I mean, it was awful. So I was like, never, ever, ever again. And that was still in my mind, because that had been like about 6 years before I got pregnant. And so I look back on that now, and I'm like, no, we're done. We're done. We're happy to see the recovery. We're still got a long ways to go, because he has apraxia, it turns out. So even though we've got the talking started, now we have to overcome, and we found out that the vaccines did the apraxia. I mean, he had over 9 on the APGAR. I mean, he was everybody was just amazed at our son when he was born and how healthy he was. He was 9 pounds, 6.5 ounces, and he was just, you know, when he was born from the C-section, he literally did a big cough and cry, and all the water shot. I mean, with his lungs. I mean, everybody, the doctors were amazed at him. He turned over in the crib the first night at the hospital. Everybody was just like, this baby's amazing. He hit all his marks perfect. But because we went slowly, it took a little longer to see it, but we did see it, and I have no doubt. You know, it's a genetic. It's got to be something with him. His little system just couldn't take it. There was nothing low and slow enough for him. He can't do it. It's not in his abilities. So.
Well, there'll be a lot of people here. You've got lots of hearts, by the way. A lot of people here going to pray and.
Yes, that's been the best medicine. We're serious people of faith, and the prayer. I mean, today something miraculous happened, and we knew. I mean, it was just such an answer to prayer. So don't lose hope. Keep praying, because it definitely makes a huge difference.
And thank you for telling your story. And you've signed the bus. I've already seen you do that. Do you remember the number that your son is?
3078.